Welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. I'm Angela Lockwood, and for the last 20 years, I have been working in schools, supporting teachers to build inclusive classrooms. Through A Kid's Life podcast, my goal is to help us adults better understand the complexities of life as a kid. My guests and I share stories, reflections, and simple strategies to support kids of all needs as they walk through life. So whether you're looking for inspiration, direction, guidance, tips, or just a laugh, A Kid's Life podcast is the place for you. Enjoy. Welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. I'm Angela Lockwood, and this is an exciting and a very busy week for me. I am in the middle of launching the Holistic and Inclusive Classroom program that I open the doors to only twice every year. And it's a program designed specifically for teachers to help them build inclusive practices within their class. And what this means is being able to adapt teaching and the environment and routines that they have in their classroom in order to incorporate the learning styles, the behavioral styles, but also the physical needs of kids in their class. Because what we're seeing is a whole range of children now having different ways that they need to learn, and teachers are needing to adapt the way that they teach in order to engage with these kids. And so the Holistic and Inclusive Classroom program, it's a 4-module online program so that I can reach as many teachers as possible. And teachers just register. So if you're interested, you can go to angelalockwood.com.au/holistic classroom. And you can register on there. So it doesn't matter where you're listening to this podcast from, you have access to that program because it is an online program thanks to technology. But the great thing is you also have access to me. So I know how important it is for teachers to ask questions, to try things out. And that's why the program is drip fed. So every week, teachers will have access to a new round of information that they can access with a whole range of downloadable resources. But then they also have a Q&A session with me, a live one, so that they can ask me whatever questions they like, which I can't wait for. I absolutely love that because I love seeing that teachers learn the information, they download the resources, and they go back into their classrooms and they implement these strategies straight away. Because there's nothing worse than doing a course and you sort of get halfway through it and you go, that was great, but you do nothing with it. I want to make sure that all the teachers that are doing the program not only just succeed in completing the program, because I know that information and the knowledge will transform the way that they teach, but I want them to go away and actually do the strategies, implement the strategies that we're talking about in the program. So if you are interested, again, the Holistic and Inclusive Classroom is open this week. And if you're listening live, it's open until the 11th of May, 2022. But if you aren't listening live and it is sometime another month in the year, then go over to my website at angelalockwood.com.au and you can check out when the next round is open. Now, today's episode, I really want to talk about something very important, and this is about how to build confidence in your students. Now, confidence is a thing that I do a lot of reading about, a lot of research, and also a lot of work with kids on, because I see confidence levels can have such a negative impact on the way that kids engage with their learning. Confidence is something that it can get you through some really tough times, but it also can help you step out of your comfort zone when you're feeling like you're not good enough or you're feeling like you don't have the skills to do something. Other people might have better skills than you. But confidence is one of those things that I always think about it like keeping it in your back pocket so that you can pull on your confidence. You can increase your confidence levels. You can adapt with your confidence levels whenever you need it. Sometimes I see it like a superpower. It doesn't mean that we're always find confidence in everything at all times, but if you can know that you've got the ability to draw on your confidence and draw on your confidence to be able to step out of your comfort zone and do new things, then life just opens up. Now, for kids, I guess when they were little, and I look back at my childhood when I was little, and I grew up in a house that we were always encouraged to do things different, to step out of our comfort zone and to try new things. And I'm really thankful to my parents, if they're listening, for doing that, because what it meant is we didn't always succeed. Sometimes we tried and we were confident, but it didn't work out how we hoped. Sometimes it was on the sporting field, other times it was at school, sometimes it was just trying a new creative thing. For me, I was a sports person growing up, and I can remember there were so many times where I was so confident I'd get into a team and I'd do everything I possibly could. I would train hard, I would turn up to the tryouts and really give my all, but then I wouldn't get picked. Now, I look back at those times, and at the time it felt really awful. It felt so bad because I was so confident I'd get picked in that team. But the thing with confidence and with life is that things are often unpredictable. You can do everything you possibly can, but it doesn't mean that it turns out exactly how you hope. Now, does that mean we stop trying? No way. When we have things that don't turn out our way, it's such a great learning experience for us. It is, and you hear this all the time, all the motivational books say it, and they are 100% correct. You learn more out of failure than what you do out of success. And failure, it's a bit of a strong, awful word, but what it means is when things don't turn out the way that you had hoped. And life does that all the time. But when it comes to the students in your class, confidence can really hold them back, and particularly for those kids who have been told in the past that they're not good enough, or they are in a class where, in particularly for the high school kids, if they're in one of the lower classes and they're not in the top academic class, they can be bringing feelings to their learning that they're not good enough. But there are so many factors that come into play. And it depends on, I guess, the child's personality type. It depends on the child's upbringing at home. But I want to just draw your attention to, how do you know if a child in your class has low confidence? Sometimes it can be really, really obvious, but there are some signs, and I want to run through these with you. So one of the key things is saying negative things about themselves. So it's most obvious, it's usually the most obvious signal that a child's lacking confidence. And they might say things like, oh, I'm stupid, I'm so dumb at this, I could never do this. They really speak down on themselves. And that can, I guess that's a really outward way of seeing that a child has really low confidence. They really believe that they're dumb and that they're stupid, or all those other awful words that they put on themselves. So saying negative things about themselves, if your student's doing that, you know that they're struggling with confidence somehow. The second one is around avoiding challenges or experiences for fear of failing. So this is the child that won't do the public speaking in class, or they won't go into a new group, or they may not turn up even to the athletics carnival at school or the swimming carnival at school. They avoid these challenges because they don't want to fail. It could even be a familiar task that's just done differently. But if they're not wanting to involve themselves in activities for fear of failure, that's another key observation that they could be experiencing low confidence. Now, the next one is, it's an interesting one, this, because particularly I know here in Australia, which is where I am, we often will joke about ourselves and put ourselves down in a way that can hide or try to seem to be funny. It can hide the way we're really feeling. And it's often mistaken as a child just being, they might be being funny or even modest. They might say things like, oh, I'm such an idiot, while joking, or while giggling, I should say. Or they might say things like, they might make a joke about how somebody else is smarter than them and they're just the dumb, or something like that. And when kids are joking about themselves in a negative way, they're still putting themselves down. They're still lowering their expectations of themselves, and they're just trying to do it in a way that seems like they're funny. But this is, again, another way of saying that a child has low confidence. Another one is around not accepting compliments. Now, I know as adults, we are often terrible at this. Someone says to you, oh, you look really lovely in that dress. And you'll go, oh, this old thing. Or it might be, oh, this dinner is so beautiful. And you'll go, oh, yeah, it's not that good. I should have put more salt in it, or I should have, it's not spicy enough. What we do is when someone gives us a compliment, we quickly turn it around so that it doesn't seem like we're being cocky or what's that other awful phrase, up ourselves, or these awful phrases that we also put on ourselves. But not accepting compliments is a thing to show that we're not feeling great and that we're not confident about that thing the person is complimenting us on. So for a child, it might be, there's a maths question that they're really struggling with, and they persist with it and they try it. And when the teacher sort of says, oh, I'm really proud of you for doing that, that's correct, well done. They go, oh, it wasn't that hard. Or they go, oh, well, I didn't really need to do too much work on that. Or, they just sort of put themselves down in a negative way. So rather than just saying thank you, they then sort of simplify and minimize their achievement. So not accepting compliments, that's another way of recognizing if a child is low in confidence. Now, the last one I want to talk about is being overly upset by criticism. Now, none of us like to be criticized. I get that. None of us like to be criticized. But our response can often be a signal of if we're feeling like we've been attacked or we're feeling defensive. We all know we're not the best of everything. There's always somebody better than this and better than us. And we also don't get things right all the time. But for children who have low confidence, a comment provided by a teacher or a parent or somebody else showing where they could do better, well, they start to cry, they start to scream, and they even withdraw. I've seen children who, when a teacher has asked a child to go back and check their work, they let out this big sigh, they crumple up their paper and they've thrown it in the bin. That's an example of a child being really low in confidence, that when they've been given feedback, their response is really over the top and they don't take it well. So these are just some of the signs that a child in your class might be feeling low in confidence. So I want you just to sort of jump into your class, have a look at them. But also, if you're not a teacher, if you're somebody who's not a teacher, you might be a parent or a carer of a child, and you're recognizing these signs in your child, then it usually shows that there are some confidence issues happening. And remember, confidence can stop kids from progressing in all areas of their life. So it's really important that we get onto this. It also affects their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves, which we know that with social media and with media, often it makes us feel bad about ourselves anyway. So what we don't want to be doing is seeing, facilitating these conversations and these environments for our kids to be feeling bad about themselves even more. So what do we do about this? So if you've got a child that displays any of the behaviors, you can always support them and build their confidence. And so I want to just give you 4 really simple ones that you can think about. Now, you might want to get a pen and bit of paper here, but some of them you already do and you don't even realize. So let me run through these. The first one is around providing encouragement to them. This is obvious, right? If a child puts themselves down or gets upset, then giving them reinforcement and positive feedback is a really important way to show the child that, hey, what you did just then was really great. What you did just then, that was correct. Or, it might be when you persisted then with your maths work, that's the part that I'm really impressed by, because you kept going even when it was difficult. It doesn't mean that when you give positive feedback, you got to put up a big party and go over the top. But sometimes the little subtle things, like a little high five or saying to them, I'm really proud of you, or even just a little thumbs up, or I bet seeing your work makes you feel good. Comments like that can go a long way to building confidence. So providing encouragement is a really, really good way to help kids start to build their confidence back up again. The second one I want to talk about is about building relationships. So building a good relationship with your child's teachers. So if you're a parent, this is a really important one. But if you're also a child's teacher, building a good positive relationship with the child and their support. So it might even be their therapy team. They might be having visiting occupational therapists or speech pathologists coming into the class. Building good relationships with them is really important. Now, if you're a parent, things like attending the parent-teacher interviews is so important because it's not just about their academics. It's also about asking them, how are they in class? How are they engaging with their peers? Are they trying in their work? Are they trying new things? These are important questions that you can ask your teacher. It might even be, you might set up a communication platform through the app that you use and just sort of touch in with the teachers every now and again and say, hey, how's my child doing? I just want to touch in and see, if they're participating in class, because we often forget that participation, so much learning comes just from participating, not just from the academic achievement. So open communication with your child's school, or if you're a teacher, with the child's parent and with their therapy team, can help to identify any of the issues that a child might be having before they get too big. We want to get on top of these things early so that they don't become a big problem. Now, the third point I wanted to talk about was around fostering good communication. Open communication, it's linked very closely with the relationships point I just spoke about. But having a really open, caring, and non-judgmental relationship with a child is the most important. Now, from a teacher's point of view, I get this. You've got sometimes 30 children in your class, and it can be hard at each time to really engage with each child in every activity. But for those kids that that are really lacking in confidence and need your boost, they need to know that you've got their back. And so a little thing, like I said before, around encouragement, it might just be going up and saying to them, giving them a thumbs up and going, hey, I'm really proud of how you're persisting with your work today. So fostering communications with a child's team through these discussions, I guess you can provide strategies then, or you can even just allow the child to vent and help them build their resilience, and so that they know what they need to do next time. And for kids with low confidence, knowing that they have somebody to turn to who gets them, who understands them, who's got their back, is so important to help building their confidence. If they feel like they're alone, or they're not good enough, or no one cares, which we know is never true. But if a child feels that way, then the vicious cycle continues. Their confidence lessens, their confidence drops, and they don't participate or have a go. Now, the last one I want to talk about is leading by example. Now, children watch us like a hawk. I've spoken about this before. They may not seem like they're listening, but they are certainly always watching. And as a parent or a teacher, if you're doing activities with a negative attitude or even putting yourself down, then our kids will watch and they'll learn this too. So making comments, if you're a parent, like I look ugly or I am so dumb, or telling your partner these things, even if joking, right? Tongue-in-cheek jokes through sarcasm, this tells our kids that it's okay to put ourselves down. And even as a teacher, if you are doing some of these things in class, if you are doing things where you don't want to try something new, or the kids ask you to play handball with them in the playground and you go, oh no, I'm not good at that. Kids remember that stuff and they start to learn that it's okay, and that's the way we do things. So talk your kids through your challenges, obviously at an age appropriate level, and what strategies you take on to help you get through them. Even making comments like, oh, this is so hard, but I've got this, shows our kids things aren't always easy, but we will always get through them. Now, these are great conversations to be had as a parent when you're tucking them in at bed at night, or when reading them a book, or at a family dinner. As a teacher, these are really great times, even in the playground, when the child, they might be, for kids with low confidence, they're often kids that will play on their own, that they'll sort of opt out of peer play. So if you see them on their own, going up to them and just having a chat with them and seeing how they're doing and sharing some of your experiences with them. Or even it might be during target group time, where you've got a small group of kids, and rather than doing a handwriting activity, and you can see one of the kids in your group is really struggling with confidence, you might even just take a couple of minutes of that target group time to talk about the importance of stepping out of your comfort zone, of believing in yourself, and of having a go. Because kids need to learn this stuff from us, and they're watching. Don't ever forget. It's really hard sometimes to remember that. I know I can often say things about myself, but I've trained myself to be able to sort of pick up when I go to put myself down or say something negative about myself, to try to flip that around straight away. And it is something that takes practice. It's not something that comes naturally, even to the most positive of us. But it's an important skill for our kids to learn. So I really believe, why is confidence such an important thing? It really makes me so sad. You can even hear, I can't even articulate it. When I see kids that won't have a go because they feel like they're not good enough, or when kids don't believe in themselves that they have the ability to take on something new. Because when you don't try new things, then you don't learn to your full capacity. You don't grow as a human being. And our kids deserve to feel optimistic and confident to step forward and to be their best. That's my mantra. Is I started out all of this in working with kids because I really believe that all kids deserve to have the best start in life. And that's why I do what I do. So if anything's resonated with you out of my podcast today, out of this conversation, then let me know. Send me a message or make a comment. And, it might be something that you struggled with as a kid. And what were some of the things that you did to help you move through that? You still might be struggling, and this might have triggered something for you to go and have a chat to someone, or to start making some different changes in your own life. So together, let's create an environment where kids can take risks. They can step out of their comfort zone, and they can try new things, knowing that they have our support every step of the way. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're an auntie, a grandparent, doesn't matter who you are. We want kids to feel like they have the ability to do whatever they choose. I can remember as a kid, that's how I believed as a kid. You wanted to be everything. To say that you wanted to go to the Olympics or be an astronaut or whatever it was that you wanted to do. It was, of course, that's what I would do. No questions asked. But it feels like there's a point in time in a kid's life where they get that little bit older, and that starts to change. They start to question their abilities, and I would love to see that stop. So if you feel your child experiences low confident, or your student experiences low confident to the point it's causing any type of depression and anxiety, eating disorders, social withdrawal, or substance abuse, then I encourage you to consult a qualified health professional to help support your child. It is so important that our kids get the help that they need before the problem gets too big. So today, that was about how to build confidence in your students and in your kids. Now, there's a whole range of information that I have on my website that you can go to around this topic. And it's really important that we educate ourselves as parents. There's a whole, and as adults, there's a whole lot of books that are out there that you can read around building resilience in kids. And thankfully, we're having really open conversations about how, as adults, we can learn the skills to help support our kids. Now, for your teachers, don't forget, I am in launch week this week up until the 11th of May. The Holistic and Inclusive Classroom is currently open. And if you are interested in finding out more ways and really practical strategies about how you can support your kids with additional and diverse needs in your class, then jump on over to angelalockwood.com.au/holistic classroom and sign up. I would love to have you join me. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me here on a Kids Life podcast, and I wish you all the very best for the upcoming week. Thank you for listening to a Kids Life podcast. To stay up to date on all the new episodes, please subscribe on all the places where podcasts are found. If you want to learn more about my teacher and parent programs, please go to angelalockwood.com.au. Until next time, slow down, have fun, and take care of our kids.